Hello, today for review I've got really interesting in-ear monitors, inexpensive model, as usual from China. It is already pretty well known in the audiophilic community. It is Tin Audio T2. So it's a dual dynamic driver model. In each earpiece they put two dynamic drivers to enhance the sound, but actually they did manage to to keep price pretty low. It's price about $50, and for this money you will have really nicely built and really good sounding model. It's a bit of spoiler, but let's have a closer look now. Despite being pretty affordable and inexpensive model, Tin Audio T2 creators try to do their best to make them as stylish as possible. Even outer box it looks pretty simplistic, but they really don't make traditional Chinese error of putting tons of information on it. So they they leave it almost blank, and I can say it looks pretty stylish. But actually they are even more packaged with even more style, because in that outer box you will have this interesting book-like inner box. It has unusual material. It's not a paper, it's not cardboard, but something with leather-like texture. So it of course it's not real leather, but something some artificial one, but it looks extremely stylish. So if you're looking some model for present, for example, I can definitely recommend it. It's probably the most stylish package I've ever saw. It opens this way. Inside we will have short manual. So let's have a look what we have. As usual, technical specifications. So dynamic 10mm woofer and 6mm tweeter from 12 Hz to 40 kHz, but of course it's like some not really figures that doesn't matter really much. 16 ohm of impedance, it's more important, so they are not really high impedance. So here, as you can see, IEMs themselves. I will put them aside for a little bit. And underneath here is cable and a big set of tips. So we will have 6 pair of tips, and they actually differ. So there are tips with wider bore and with narrower bore. So they have a bit different sound, but actually not too big. So you can test them yourself and find the proper ones, because for as usual for dynamic driver models you will need to have the best fit as possible. So as you can see, for this price, accessory set and packaging and presentation are done really nicely. Speaking about build quality, I must admit that Tin Audio T2 are made really stylish. As you can see, they are made from metal, and it looks like not aluminum but more like stainless steel. But anyway, the build quality and the level of metal work is really great. Sometimes I'm really surprised how good recent Chinese models are in terms of craftsmanship, and actually they sold all these pretty good models for such modest price. So you can imagine how inexpensive they are actually. As you can see, build quality is flawless, zero issues, everything is fit really nicely. They are pretty ergonomic, they are small, so they fit into almost every ears. They have normal spout, not really long. I prefer it to be a bit longer, but anyway it fit nicely and provide I'd say average sound isolation. Not super good, not super bad, something in average. It will be enough for noisy street and for public transport, but in subway or in the plane you probably will need double flange tips or these foams. As you can see, there is metal grill to protect it from dust and so on and so forth. Everything is done really nicely. There are vents here So and here to reduce driver flags. So model is also very well thought in terms of ergonomic and in terms of fit. They even have this lip to hold the tips properly, and it managed to do it works well. Cable is replaceable, and actually I can say it's the only problematic place. Of course, for this price you won't expect something super fancy, and actually this cable is really nice in terms of quality, but it has a bit of microphonic effect, so it's really tangling easily. So I probably prefer some not so fancy looking cable, but without so much tangling and with less microphonic noise. So let me see, this is right cable for the right earpiece. They're using common MM6 connectors. They have good quality, at least at first sight. I'm not sure how they will behave after a few years, but at least they have pretty well defined clicks and they are holding really firmly. So it gives me some hope that they will serve for a long time. They don't have ear hooks, and there is for me a question. So are they designed to be worn over the ear or cable down? If we look at these color rings, actually this should be the right earpiece. But for cable up wearing, I found cable up wearing not really comfortable for me, because this part really push against my ear and in this way I don't like the fit, because traditionally I prefer such fit. So as you can expect, it's typical for other IEMs which fit into ears. So for right ears should be this earpiece, but wearing cable down, everything is okay. So if you wear cable down, this part with connector goes straight down and provide really good fit. Of course, it's subjectively for me, so for over the ear wearing, I prefer to swap them and actually wear this in left ear, it fits this way, and this one in right ear, it fits this way. But luckily, when we using IEMs with replaceable cable, you can just swap left and right channel and you can find the way of wearing that will fit you the best. Cable itself pretty nice, and it looks pretty reliable and it looks pretty stylish, but as I've said before, it has slight microphonic. But with over the ear wearing, it's not a big issue, but it's still present. But at least I hope it will serve pretty long. It's bright, it's carefully braided. Here is splitter. Of course, there is no soldering inside, because after the splitter, all four wires go way down, right to this jack. Actually, jack is pretty nice. I like it. It has carbon texture and bright brass-like color. It looks really stylish. So to summarize this part, in terms of build quality, in terms of materials, really great IEMs. One issue is with cable. It's normal, but it's tangling and has a bit microphonic, so probably you can look for some replaceable cable. It's not necessary because of sound, just of pure ergonomic, but actually it's not a big issue, let's be honest. But anyway, there are a lot of inexpensive cables, so you can probably find another option for you, or you can live with this cable. It's also pretty good for the introduction for this entry-level IEMs. And of course, about the sound of Tin Audio T2, I've recently seen some claims how could someone review audio gear without mentioning some tracks to be used for review. To be honest, I don't understand that claims, because I often listen about 100 of songs to get an idea of general sounding, and usually I'm using test CDs for reviewing. It's Chesky Records test CDs, and also really good set of test discs from Focal and GM Labs, and for me it's really fun when some reviewers put some player on the screen and just start describing sound using AC/DC or Aerosmith and other groups like that. With all my respect, I like AC/DC too, and I like Aerosmith and many other groups. I listen to Die Antwoord and a lot of other pop music, but let's be honest, that's not music to be used for testing, because it's not recorded properly to be correct, and actually you won't test much with this music. It's more like subjective opinion. Do you like it or you don't like it? It won't show any strengths or flaws of IEMs. But anyway, let's pretend that I've decided to do it. I won't do it probably too often, but let's pretend that like I took my best dub, plug these IEMs, and I'm ready to reviewing them and describing their sound. So, first of all, I'd like to mention two things. Teen Audio T2 require a bit of burn-in, not like dozens of hours of burn-in using pink noise or white noise or something like that. Just about from 8 to 10 hours of any music will be more than enough. And also you will need to find proper tips, because for dynamic driver IEMs it's usually the most important thing. I'm using wide bore single flange tips with them, but this blue foams looks better on the video, so I will leave them. Teen Audio T2 has surprisingly interesting tuning. It's not something that you will expect from the Chinese IEMs, and especially from the relatively affordable model. They are tuned to be neutral and pretty resolving. They are not super resolving, but they are on the neutral side, and they are tuned in the audiophilic way, and I really like this tuning, Bass is pretty fast. It has a good punch when it's present in the recording, but they don't have big accent on the low frequencies. If you got used to some V-shaped IEMs, probably it's not a model for you. It is a model for those who'd like to have the amount of bass that is present in the recording. So let's find some example. So folder. What I have to speak about the bass. Of course, Juno Reactor would be really nice. Here is one of my favorite tracks. I suppose Juno Reactor will release some new album, because I really like them, and I think that it's one of the best artists in electronic music, because they are pretty smart for this genre. So bass is fast, it's detailed, it has really good strengths, but only when it's put when it's recorded this way, because they don't have any additional low frequencies, and I really like it. It has normal depths, not super deep, but normal depths for this price range, normal resolution, even on better side, so pretty nice resolving model. Great texturing, but without added weight, without added midness, and so on. The strongest part of this IEMs is probably mids, so let's find something demonstrating mid frequencies. And so, of course, one of the best recordings for this purpose is Jazz at the Pawn Shop. Really great mids, they are resolving, but they are not thin, not sharp like sometimes it happens with armature models and expensive. They have normal weight, they sound pretty realistic, so they are not super resolving, but resolution is nice, and in the same time they are not too critical to the quality of recording. They are not trying to bring all these issues with recording forward, so they are resolving. They really good in portraying emotions, and they are pretty mid-centric. They sound perfect with vocals, they sound perfect with jazz, with other styles that are relying on the realism and the normal instrument representation. Imaginary stage is a bit bigger than average both in width and in depth, but really good with really good layer separation and with really nice amount of airness between the instruments. And treble here, of course, they are simplified, not like, you know, not super simple, but of course it's not like some let's say for treble some intensive metal. I like Haken, they're really interesting group offering really unusual music. It's heavy but pretty unusual. I really recommend if you like such genre. So treble here is nice in terms of resolution, in terms of extension, but of course they simplified in attacks and decays. They simplified in terms of layering, but of course it's something that you will expect from inexpensive model. You know, you can't expect like $300 treble. But anyway, for this price range, treble is also nice. It's balanced, just maybe a bit too much for treble sensitive people, but for me they have really nice amount of treble to balance lower frequencies and to provide really nice balanced sound. So actually, to summarize the sound part, really good, really nice IEMs tuned in audiophilic way, I'd say, without accents, without some exaggregations, pretty natural, mid-centric for complex music. They are probably one of the best choices in this price range. And let's talk a little bit about some comparisons, but of course we can't talk about them without some track showing on the background. So let it be Hugh Laurie, good album with perfect blueses performed by perfect artist. But anyway, I must highlight that all the tracks that I've shown here, it's not the tracks that I've used for the critical listening, it's just some illustrations, because as I've said before, for critical listening, I think you should use some properly recorded tracks from test CDs and so on. So speaking about comparisons in this price range, I remember actually two good models. First one, it's Mi Audio M6 second generation. IEMs created to use as first of all as professional monitoring tool, but they are really nice for music listening if you like natural sounding. So compared with Teen Audio T2, they are sounding tighter on low frequencies, their bass is faster, sometimes it's better because you get better resolution, sometimes it's actually worse because sometimes it sounds too dry, but it is their tuning. Their mids are more resolving, but they are sound colder and without additional warmth, so they are more critical to the quality of recording. And the treble is a bit better than here, but anyway, it's they can be sharper, especially if you are treble sensitive. So main difference, Mi Audio is more resolving and even more natural and has less weight. So this a bit more musical and more weighty, so sometimes they sound better, but anyway, it's actually a matter of preferences. Another really good model in this price range is Kinera Seed. They are a typical hybrid model with dynamic driver for the low frequencies and balanced armature for treble, and they are offering this typical V-shaped signature. It's another sonical representation, you can prefer it more. It has more weighty low frequencies, less resolving than here, but with more weight and with more body added there, and they have a bit more resolving treble, but also it's accented, so sometimes for some people it means more resolution and more airy treble, for other people it means more sharp sound. But anyway, all the three models I've already mentioned are still pretty treble. They have pretty noticeable amount of treble, so they are not for treble phobic. And another model, they cost a bit more, but it's Fios FH1. So they are also hybrid model using dynamic driver and balanced armatures. but they are tuned a little bit in different ways. They are warmer with added warmth on low frequencies and on mids, and pretty resolving but more polite treble, which are rolled off a little bit, so that model is for those who like less treble. But they also have a noticeable treble, not too rolled off. So here is Tin Audio T2, really good model for those who like sound of dynamic drivers and for those who like natural, pretty audiophilic and a bit mid-centric representation. Thank you for attention.